Now to a News4JAX I-Team investigation into soaring rent, uncovering the one hidden factor that economists say has contributed to monthly rent increases as high as $400. We spoke with industry experts, dug through the data to find out why Northeast Florida rent may remain sky high.
So it all boils down to the popularity of short-term rentals like Airbnbs and VRBOs and a new trend called short-term rental arbitrage. It's when a tenant lists their apartment or rental home on one of these vacation rental type sites that they don't own, and then they use the money that they made to pay their own rent. If you thought short-term rentals were being used solely for vacation and leisure in North Florida, think again.
Like, it was just a lot easier to move, but then for an apartment, first of all, it's really hard to even find one.
Brooke Prince-Warinsky says she bypassed the traditional rental process and the security deposits that come with it, and instead she found a place in Riverside on Airbnb and wound up staying for a year. She says in the end, she paid $850 a month.
I guess it was just easier. I didn't have a good rental history, and it was just easier, and I could do it. I was like, okay, book tomorrow, boom, done.
While the price she paid for monthly rent was extraordinarily low, it's an example of yet another option Floridians are turning to for housing. Economists saying the short-term rental market has become a factor for long-term lease landlords who raise their monthly rent in response.
So when you have more and more short-term vacation rental units, you're taking out more and more properties from the housing stock. So the supply of housing goes down as the number of short-term vacation rental units goes up.
Florida Atlantic University economist Ken Johnson conducted a study about short-term rentals driving up Florida rents, saying while researching the contributing factors, real estate brokers kept talking about a new trend called Airbnb arbitrage. He says in some instances, tenants who don't even own the property are putting their units up for rent on the short-term rental market, renting for a few days out of the month to pay their monthly rent.
I think that's going to be a story one day is, oh, look at how many of these where people rented from one individual turned around and simply flipped it, if you will, to rent on a short-term basis. I just was really shocked by this arbitrage concept.
So just how many properties in Jacksonville are available for short-term rental? It's a question that we wanted an answer to, learning that the short-term rental inventory increased last year by 26%. What was also surprising is where the short-term vacation rental market saw the biggest expansion. Not right on the beach, as one might expect in the Sunshine State.
We've seen, say, rural locations, small cities, in suburban areas with the highest amount of growth.
Bram Gallagher is an economist with AirDNA, which compiles data on the short-term rental market. He shared with us the Northeast Florida zip codes with the most active short-term rentals in December. Zip code 32256 leads the way with 1,555 active rentals at the time. Notice it's not on the coastline, but instead on the south side, from Bay Meadows down to Nocatee. Zip code 32250 comes in second with 875 active listings. This zip code is coastal in Jacksonville Beach, and we found the price of short-term rent to be more expensive for this reason. And coming in at number 3 with 758 active short-term rentals is zip code 32205, which encompasses Avondale, Murray Hill, and parts of Riverside. Gallagher says, based on data from AirDNA and RealPage, Jacksonville is ranked 5th in the nation for how much can be made from using a long-term rental as a short-term rental property. So economists say the good news for renters is that the short-term rental market isn't forecasted to remain as strong or to be as competitive as it was in 2022 because interest rates have risen and the housing market has slowed down. Economists are also warning the public about short-term rental arbitrage and knowing who you are renting from. If you rent an Airbnb from someone who doesn't own the property, it's possible the real owner is unaware of this agreement and they don't have the adequate insurance to cover the property or you in case of an accident or emergency.
Well, people re-renting their rentals, that's really not something you hear a whole lot about, but apparently it happens a lot. So, Tara,
in Jacksonville.
Great topic. Right now on News4JAX.com, the I-Team has created an interactive map so you can take a closer look at the data we've collected on those short-term rentals in the Jacksonville area. You can see how many active listings there were in your zip code. You can also see how the number of short-term rentals has grown over the last year. Just look for the map inside this story on the homepage.